learn from each other? Are there ways that we can work together? Not.
This meeting is being recorded.
There's no point really in. Here we go. There's no point in duplicating efforts, at least the way I see it. So yeah,
agreed.
That's kind of the precipice of this meeting. Josh, am I representing it correctly?
Yes. Yeah, want to figure out ways that we can work together, share in the work that we're doing, because it looks like we're very aligned in a lot of ways. I don't know how much. Is it David, or do you just go by DJ, or what?
Either one is fine. David,
Okay.
Dave, DJ. There's so many Davids that I offer up to DJ. There have been a few projects where there's already a David. And
I feel yeah. I usually do JP because my middle name's Paul.
Oh,
and there's a Joshua in the room, so
okay, cool.
I feel I do that as well.
Right.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure how much Ruben let you know about our projects, and so
I'd love to hear, just quick anchoring, or just background of you and your story and how you came to this, and where you've landed so far.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be as brief so we can kind of get into more of the collaborative ways that we could work together. Seeds of DAO is my original business that's I've been working on, and I co-founded that with my wife. And our focus there has been to work towards regenerative growth, regenerative business growth principles, and do that through like fractional growth professionals that you would typically see in like the business as usual realm, but they're now kind of making that transition to what is regenerative growth? How do we help businesses to regeneratively grow in the areas of like marketing and messaging, the areas of finance and funding, and governance and operations and management, right? And so I've been working to build up a studio sorts with those folks. We're basically just a decentralized group of individuals, so we're not really under one studio banner. So we share work, we build projects out together, and we try to find ways that we can learn to do regenerative business and grow regenerative businesses. So that's kind of the main business that's been kind of holding this other project as a placeholder, and then we have been inviting businesses to kind of come into it as well. And this project is RegenBEE, and it's an acronym. It stands for Regenerative Business Economics Ecosystem, or Regenerative Bioregional Economics Ecosystem. You can kind of say either or is kind of how we're going about it. But it's an association. It's set up as a fair share commons, if you're familiar with the fair share commons model. And we have 3 businesses currently partnered together with us on this. We have a technology company that's helping us to do some of the technology solutions for it. And their business is Karoko. And then we have Evolute 6, Graham Boyd's work and around the fair share commons, but also
I do, yeah. Read the book.
Awesome. Ergodic Investor or Rebuild, both great books. So we were partnered with Evolute 6, and then my business Seeds of DAO, that my wife and
what
I
is
own.
it, Seeds? Is there anything I can read up on that, or is there a...
Yeah, I'll send you a link to where's the chat? There it is. I love how Zoom, changes where the icons are depending on what meeting you're in, Let's see. I'll grab a link. Yeah, so that's just the skinny, I guess, there. And RegenBEE essentially the way we're starting off is we're building out an ecosystem. We're calling an ecosystem nursery, and
Love it, love it.
And essentially, the ecosystem nursery is bringing 7 realms of the permaculture flower. We're creating a circle within each of those realms, and we're focusing on 3 bioregions on top of that. So there's 10 kind of circles, but the way we're doing this is we're not inviting businesses that are, one-off startups that we would be incubating, but we're incubating and accelerating. This is probably where it really aligns with your guys' work as well. We're accelerating the ecosystem builders, or what we call ecosystem propagators. So we find organizations that are already doing the work of organizing and accelerating, or organizing and gathering a certain realm or bioregion. And we grab 2 or 3 of those, and they kind of put into a container together, and we incubate within the collaborative means that they can pull together. Is essentially what we're doing for our incubation process, and it's a year-long process. We have kind of phases or seasons that we're going through, 2-month seasons that we're kind of working through, and they're all related to the action steps for each of those seasons are rooted in the permaculture design principles. So in the beginning, we're doing kind of the observation and interaction phase, and working through how this ecosystem had different stakeholders and the different capital structures and that are organized within those pieces. So it's very kind of end goal towards the end of the incubator is to help them to organize and to create fair share commons models, or create a closed commons. It doesn't have to be a fair share commons, but we can teach them how to set up a fair share commons if that's what they're needing, or if they need some other type of governance structure to govern a closed commons that protects the shared resources and capital structures and stakeholders that are involved. And that's how we're kind of incubating. Our goal for each of those is essentially to make sure that there's, hopefully, we're trying to build nature's ergodicity into it. And so that's why we're doing it from an ecosystem approach rather than, a one-off business or a sector's incubation. I'll check on that.
Wow, I mean, just monumental alignment, heart alignment, just philosophical alignment, and I'm sure specific alignment around a number of vectors. So this is just incredible. It's like I found more and more that, especially since connecting with Ruben, but just in something in the air, something in the water, a lot of carbon and 2.5 and all this new stuff. But that we run into people that are obviously working on the same puzzle, just different sections, and and then the picture of the puzzle is not on the box. It's not known ahead of time, and it's only as you start to come together with these different sections of the puzzle, you start to see the beauty of this puzzle that we're all working on. So it's just amazing to meet you, and just to hear of. It's very inspiring and validating and encouraging to see others with similar instincts and similar approaches, and also different approaches and learnings to learn from, and to catalyze together and galvanize.
Yeah, and I did send also the deck that Josh sent in a Slack, and just now also in WhatsApp, so you have that as a reference as well.
Cool.
Yeah, there are also differences, right, between our processes. We're thinking about a 3-month process. We're looking at actually finding funding and channeling funds through them. We're also thinking a little bit more from the innovative side, even though we do also the end game is still a commons, but this commons doesn't necessarily have to be land based. And so, for instance, you mentioned you're working with a tech partner to build some of the infrastructure for coordination. And in our mind, we also want to build infrastructure for coordination, but this is something for which you could actually build we're calling it a NAO, but essentially what you call a fair share commons or network cooperative, or they're different names for the same thing, but ultimately the thing that people use to manage the commons. So I think that those are the main differences, and we're working our way slowly towards what we call the regenerative ecosystem, because we're starting with the digital sovereignty ecosystem, and then the coordination ecosystem, the consciousness ecosystem, and then we get to regeneration ecosystem, because in many ways we feel that those are prerequisites to be able to move the needle at scale. Regeneration is what we have to do, but how do we get to do that quickly with many people? I was just looking at the presentation where Zach Bush showed up at this online event that a friend organizes, and he gave me this new insight that, hey, actually all the oil companies and gas companies and so on have done us a real big favor, right? Putting all that carbon in the air. Because if you think about it, we're going to reforest Sahara Desert. We're going to reforest the Middle East. These are huge areas. Where are they going to get the carbon from to actually do that, right? It's a great gift that they're giving us to take it out of the ground, so that now in rapid tempo we can regrow those areas and pull it back down, so that we can have those thriving ecosystems there. It's a little bit of a mind fuck, but it really got me. It's like, okay, yeah, down. I want to see positive futures, and I don't want to demonize people. So yeah, let's think about that. So how many people do we need to do that? 200 million, 500 million? Let's mobilize those. So yeah.
Wait, who is this, Ruben, that you were speaking with?
Zach Bush. Zach Bush. He started the project that I was just talking to the other week. What's it called again? Project Biome. And he also wrote many books and so on. He's famous. But
Gotcha, got it.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. How does that land, Josh? When I speak about these kind of differences, how does it land with you? What's the impact on you as you hear that, or what are thoughts that it triggered?
It's. I think it's important to bring in the differences, and it doesn't seem so different that I would say that we couldn't work together on building something together. But it does allow for a different framing and a different approach for each of us to kind of resonate with one group or another. And even there might even be potential for us to incorporate the differences into each other's projects. I don't see anything that's like saying, oh, that's entirely a different path, and we're not going to go that route, So it'd be cool to explore more deeply and to see kind of the incubation process that you're going through, and get more acquainted to that. On the funding side, we are looking to build like a funding apparatus for the ecosystem. It's actually going to be more a sector of the ecosystem, because one of the permaculture flowers is the finance and economics petal, right? And so we're kind of grouping, we're creating one of our circles as the stewarding of a funding apparatus, but also a growth apparatus for regenerative business. And so we're looking at Evolute 6 being one of those businesses, Seeds of Dow, and then we're looking at another funding partner within that. But we already have like our seed studio has like several growth professionals that we're trying to organize to. So once we have a project per se, right, we are able to kind of release and set funds up and hire the growth professionals and resources that we need to be able to get a project standing really quick. And that's really so looking at. Oh, did one of our recordings decide not to record?
Goes
Right,
Ruben.
both are there. Okay. Says it's recording and taking notes. I'm not sure. The idea is that, for example, like this, the one circle that we're building out with Evolute 6 and myself, and we're trying to find the right funding partner. We don't quite know who that is at this point, to kind of start that kind of apparatus. And again, they're all ecosystem propagators or builders, right? So they're already building out their own ecosystems, and we're sharing resources within those. One of the things that we're lending towards is like just those the three businesses that we're working in that space, and the professionals that we're bringing into the room into that space. One of their main things that they want to work on first as like a objective or a goal is to actually do like we're kind of calling it a murmurations marketing or an anti-brand of sorts, right? Where we're building out shared like media pieces where we can easily market a specific. It's an anti-brand because it's going to kind of murmurate through the different petals and different circles that are building. But the idea is that we're building that and incubating that as a project that affects the entire ecosystem, because it's a media alliance of sorts is what we're trying to build there. And how would a media alliance work to kind of go in and out of different projects? And that was something that was brought up by just the small group that we're kind of organizing right now. Even though it's not officially organized, we're coming up and we're exploring and seeing some of the resources that we could put some projects to. And that was one of the projects. But another part of the project is kind of what's our funding mechanism? Do we set up like a refi DAO or something that's profit pooling and then redistributing all the profits to certain projects. So that was another project. But we got to really figure out, or the group figures out that themselves. And we're kind of sitting as an association, RegenBEE is, of just bringing in the right people to start talking and bringing each other to the conversations. And so we're acting as more of the facilitator for the process of first gathering and then organizing under a fair share commons, or organizing the commons, right? So it could be a number of different things, but the goal for each circle is to impact the entire ecosystem. So as we bring in, one of the finance and funding pedal is also related to the tools and technology, where there's a collaborative technology group that's working on how do we build interoperability between platforms, and how do we fund that type of work. And we're trying to find, I have a conversation later on with Tibet this week or tomorrow, Tibet Sprague. We're trying to see if we can bring him into that circle. There's we have Victor Vorsky, who's doing the Coherence 2025 from the Gathering. He's coming into that tools and technology space and helping us to kind of gather other stakeholders within it. And so we're trying to find the right stakeholders for each of those realms, and then bioregionally choosing one bioregion, North America, Central and South, then seeing how, everybody kind of sets their own objective, but then seeing just how one objectives, but every single thing that each of these groups can do should benefit the other. And then we're trying to see how to put them all together in a kind of profit pooling resource sharing endeavor. So it's going to look a little different. It's a little bit more, I don't even know. It's a little bit more, I don't know the best way to describe it. Adaptive, I guess you could say, right? It's
Organic
kind of,
or emergent.
yeah, emergent. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, so well, we know many of the same people. I speak to Victor on a weekly basis. I know Tibet, I know reasonably well. And yeah, the big gap, of course, is always where's the money going to come from, and that seems to be still open. I struggled with this problem myself for a long time, and I formed a pretty strong opinion on why money is not coming in, and at least formulated a thesis on what we can do to make the money come in, because I think that it is there's a functional reason why money is not coming in. It's not just the people with money are evil or they don't understand anything, or all the projects suck. Those are not the reasons, right? They're good projects here. There's people that are willing to do it, but still they're not connecting. So why is that, right? And it's mostly about the way that they speak the language and the way that the solutions are packaged, where there's an incompatibility. And because the way that you speak about the projects determines how they get packaged, and if you align those, then you can actually have a flow. And that's currently, at least that's my thesis, not there, or there's an incompatibility there, which is preventing many of these projects to get funded. So that's in part what we're trying to do with Allelo, is really, as we're building these fair share commons, these NAOs, as we call them, networked adaptive organisms, to really package the different projects into something that then becomes fundable, because we with that, it is in a shape that when we speak the language of investors, they get it. Even if we're going to, or when rather, we're going to offer them much different deal terms than they would get in different areas. But because I think we can make a good case for risk reduction, and when you reduce risk, you can also reduce the reward, and especially with the scale at which these ventures can actually consume money, it becomes a very interesting new asset class. So with that, I mean, we have to test this out. This is a thesis right now. We can hopefully unlock money that would otherwise just be sitting there. But it sounds like you have a beautiful kind of social process-oriented way to tackle some of these issues. We started, so historically, we started, and before I go into history, I just wanted to comment on what you said about the differences. So I started with highlighting where we're different, and this is because I think that actually we should honor each other's differences. That's one of the things that we have forgotten to do in the world. It's like where we're different is where we can be complementary. Where we're the same is great. It gives us the basis to work together. And so I kind of assumed that, but it's where we're different that we can really complement each other and understand each other. And so that's where I was coming from with that. Going back to the history, so about 1.5 years ago, I started this ecosystem race group, getting a lot of people in there to really talk about, okay, how can we do this together? And we kind of saw ultimately, running a 2 to 3 month process, that it was very hard to collectively solve these problems, because everyone kind of understands the problem better and better, but we lacked maybe some of the experts in different areas to really truly understand the issue, and to go and bridge this gap that I was just talking about, as well as several other issues. And so this is when we spun off a smaller group of 4 people to look at, okay, how can we tackle this problem? And that's how Allelo was born. And now we're kind of circling back and seeing, okay, how can we get the first cohort there, but also then expand, because we really want to get a lot of these other groups involved in thinking about the various different parts that need to be solved when we go into these other areas. And so when I think about, okay, what can we do together? I think that at least some of the learnings that are in front of us, but in kind of in the short to medium term, could really inform you on how to do things. And either it worked or didn't work, right? But at least you'll know, and so that can be fed into the circles at least, and ultimately into the incubation process that you're doing or you're planning to do. It sounds to me like at least the year-long process is not just for incubation, but it's also really with these circles to kind of figure out how to do a lot of the incubation. And so it's also it's more of a design process for the incubation than the incubation itself, because once you figured it out, you can probably supplant that and do it in many different bioregions and many different projects after that. And so I feel now I stand a little bit corrected in some of the terms that I was projecting on what you shared earlier with me. And I think I understand better where you're coming from and how you're very methodically addressing that. And so, yeah, just thinking about, okay, how can we work together? And by the way, do you have a hard stop in 1 minute, or can you go a little bit over?
I can go a little bit over. Yeah.
Okay, great. So how can we potentially work together? Well, it sounds like at least some of the learnings that we're doing could go into some of the circles, or the groups that you're building, and quite possibly, I think that we can also recommend people for some of the circles that you're still missing, because we've been cultivating a big network as well of subject matter experts. We also want to ultimately build really kind of a pipeline of different types of organizations that can facilitate the incubation. When we think about, for instance, getting elders, indigenous or otherwise, involved in these processes, but also many of the communities that are gathering these projects, and how can we get them involved in actually doing part of the pre-selection of these organizations to incubate. And then ultimately, of course, investors itself, and how can we actually get groups of investors to really support these processes themselves, even from the beginning. So when we start a cohort, so I think that there's cross-pollination there. We can dive deeper into it. And then when I do think about regeneration, I really like what you're doing with the bioregions and how you think about how you can have impact there. And we would have to dive a little bit deeper. We've been mostly thinking about, okay, how can we want to focus on projects that have systemic impact. So not just, hey, I have a farm and I want to turn it into regenerative farming practice, whatever it is, but more like, what does it take to get 10,000 farmers to switch to regenerative practices, right? What do they need, and how can we create a network cooperative around that, for instance? And I did see on your website that you are looking at kind of these bioregional hubs. Did I see that correctly?
Yeah, it's something that we have to update a little bit on the site, because Seeds of DAO is kind of holding and hosting a lot of what RegenBEE is doing. And once we start once we have our governance structure set up, we're actually going to be more for RegenBEE, and it's actually an entity. A lot of what is showing on Seeds of DAO is actually going to be starting to show up on RegenBEE, and then we'll kind of Seeds of DAO will be more focused specifically on its seed studio, the regenerative business growth for entrepreneurs. But yeah, so we are in a lot of ways trying to build out bioregional hubs. We're starting out with these 3 hubs, one in North, Central, and South. We're still kind of deliberating on exactly where each hub is going to start off with, but those are the 3 that we're working towards.
No, that's perfect, because I believe that bioregional hubs do also have that property of having a systemic influence, right? Obviously around kind of this center point, but still, I've been it's kind of selecting bioregional hubs around the world, mostly South Africa, Hawaii, Costa Rica. So there might be at least an overlap with Costa Rica, although technically Hawaii is North America. I don't know.
I don't think so. Bioregionally, not. But culturally, I guess you could say so. Yes. And even then, we gotta make sure that we can't group the indigenous culture into the Western culture there. But
yeah, no, I was kidding, of course. But
yeah, no, it's fun.
I mean, my 2 cents. You just totally concur and agree with what Ruben is saying, and just thinking of in terms of just normal referrals. I have a couple of people that I think it would be super interested and relevant to your emergent process and doing some really deep thinking. My wife is one of her collaborators is building material design, kind of regenerative product company, if you will, and looking to convert from a traditional corporate structure into some sort of cooperative type structure, and really going down the path. And so folks like that I don't think are necessarily as immediately relevant, but as we've been saying, we're always talking to people and in a flow and meeting people and talking to people, just referrals in the other direction. But also in terms of the formal incubation process, Ruben was saying that we have like a few months type process, but it could be that, given that you're thinking about a year, our process could exist within your process somehow, or as a parallel type of thing, or as a offshoot after or during, right? If a particular group wants to go into a more of a capital raising type of direction, some may not at all, right? That might be a decision tree point where it gets kind of passed on, but not just without further collaboration consideration. So I think we could design some sort of composite meta program that exists somewhere between both of ours, that is understanding who and when and why it might go between different parts of our programs. And by the way, our program we're making it up as we go along, so where I personally would love to have your eyes on it and help co-create what that is, or at least give us early feedback on what you think about it.
Yeah, and that's the way I'm kind of perceiving this relationship at this point. Like, it's like we're incubating each other and we're incubating others at the same time, type of deal, right?
Totally.
So I'm thinking of having you guys. The initial things that I'm thinking of, and we can explore more, is like let's see if we can invite you guys into the economics and finance circle.
Perfect.
And what we're really doing there is we're having a bunch of Evolute 6 as the incubator, right? The Evoluter, that's part of the program. I was building out an incubator program and accelerator based upon I had a few. I was a part of like early startup for a couple incubators myself in Utah and in the States, and was using some of the frameworks that I had learned from helping a few friends on their incubators into this. And then we have you run into they've been doing some work in Colombia, so we're trying to work with them. But the Club of Brussels, they have they would call it like incubator, like super incubators, right? Where you bring a bunch of incubators together. And essentially, that's exactly how I'm imagining the emergent side of this, is like, oh, do you know what? This particular incubation program works best for this. And let's put you through that program as we kind of move through this season of what this ecosystem is going through, right? And so we're actually trying to have like a good what would you call it? Just a poo-poo platter or choose your own adventure type of ecosystem, to where we help each other through this kind of multi-tiered way of incubating. So you can have one that incubator partner with your guys' incubator, one that's more like bioregional or industry focused, partner with you guys to do kind of a and so it requires some flexibility on everybody's part. So we can't be so rigid to say this is my incubation process and it's got to fit into this, but we take our frameworks and we see what's working and what's not working, and it may be a little difficult for some to come into that process, but we're noticing that there's tons of incubators, accelerators out there. They're all doing something slightly different and do have a purpose within their own ecosystem and what they're trying to solve. But if we can kind of come together in working on more ecosystemic change, then we can really see that, why and how we're connected. And so, yeah, that's what I'm imagining. It feels like something that we can work together. It's just
I would love to dive in a little bit into the sort of the group of incubators that you see. I don't know if there's a list that you have or something like that. Because on the one hand, I wonder what can we learn from each other? How can we not make the same mistakes others have already made? That's kind of more of a selfish goal right now for us, since we're designing our process. Then the second one, I have three things. Is do you know how many of those incubators have actually been able to kind of run a cohort, get it funded, and all of that? Do you have any idea on kind of the readiness level of these incubators?
Yeah, so Evolute 6 has taken one cohort through. They've had some
good, but no funding.
No funding with Evolute 6. There's Eduardo it's not necessarily incubator, but it's received some pieces to it. We're also we're including like Brian von Herzen of the Climate Foundation. That would be like it's more of a venture lab, right? But it's kind of that incubator space. But they're focused specifically on marine permaculture, right? And they've been able to bring a lot of funding in and then move that funding along to different technology pieces and other areas that actually move the marine permaculture sphere forward. So they've received a bunch of money. There are people that are bringing projects together and getting them started, and those projects will get funding. But I haven't seen anybody fund like pure ecosystem work. You know what I'm saying? It's usually one-off businesses and those types of things. And
I reckon that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and just to double check, when you say ecosystem, what do you mean in this case?
So an example would be Brian von Herzen, for example. I think they're probably getting the closest to like funding ecosystem work in some ways. But
and David has a little child around him, so that's why he sometimes gets distracted. Yeah.
My son has just started walking. Sorry, it's just it's cute. He's like walking toward. It's hard not to smile ear to ear. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Just yesterday he took his
fun age.
First steps.
Oh, awesome! That's awesome to be able to be at that.
So I see him like all of a sudden now doing it, and he's kind of wobbling and then gushing forward with a big grin on his face. So
moving. Look at me, Dad. Look at me.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brian von Herzen is what I would say like the work that Climate Foundation is doing in marine permaculture. that marine permaculture is an ecosystem, essentially, a regenerative business economics ecosystem that's potentially replacing or building a new industry that doesn't really exist. It's got a lot of latent potential, and that's essentially the goal for. So, for example, marine permaculture, they're building reestablishing kelp forests, and kelp forests.
Yeah,
have,
you shared this. Yeah. So
Love
it's a business ecosystem, right? So it's one solution around which many businesses and customers all can create activity that otherwise wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
And they're feeding into each other.
Another one would be, I have another ecosystem propagator that's working in watershed development, and so she's created the Watershed Unity Network, and she's working on building organizing watersheds and how they impact up and down different bioregions and influencing pieces, but that would be an ecosystem in itself. We would build industry and latent potential markets for, right? How do we make sure that there's technology and there's the right communication and the right ability for these people working around watershed work to build up that latent potential market of restoring and regenerating our watersheds, right? So that would be another ecosystem, and we're talking about the ecosystem of the collaborative technology ecosystem, and what's going into like Web3 and that in itself is an ecosystem that's budding, and we see Web3 kind of trickle over.
Yeah, could you describe like a few of the main players that you're directly engaged with around that ecosystem?
Around the collaborative technology ecosystem. So yeah, and I think, Ruben, are you guys? It looks like you're on Coherence now, right?
I'm a member of the CTA, which I think is what you mean, right?
Yeah. So the CTA being a part of that, member of the CTA, but are you also
Coherence
joining us for Are you joining us for Coherence as well?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that would be another part of what we're building out. I'm loosely attached to the Quorum One project that's been established. I don't know if you have run into.
We have David worked with them for a while.
Yeah, we've been chatting with them. We don't know where that's going to go at this point. I'm hoping that we're going to bring everybody together, but it seems like they're still doing like the individual conversations, which is kind of irritating me in a little bit. Why we can't have a collaborative conversation.
I mean, you don't have to go into that. I had some reservations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same. I think a lot for most people that we've talked to, they've had reservations as well, which is actually kind of good, because I think they were collecting and a group of people that were really wanting to see something. So I was saying, if we got together around that and we're all talking, we'd probably come up with the right solution. But they're not letting us come together.
Yeah, that's a perfect.
Okay. I mean, that's actually a good point. I mean, so I've been bringing together a lot of people in a group that I call Meta Community group. Victor is there, many others. I will add you, Josh, to it. It's a WhatsApp group. Everyone that's doing something with kind of communities of communities is there, or at least more and more. But everyone that I knew, and then Victor has been adding a bunch of people and others, and so it's gathering steam. And so I think that that's probably the group that should actually come together. Guynet obviously is there, Future, etc. Many. So, and we're doing weekly meetings to come together and see how we can work together. Our motto is one planet, one team. Planeteer is there, United Planet, many more. So let me add you to it, because I believe that that's kind of the group that at least in part, is the group that wants to come together, and then we'll slowly add more people that we trust to it, so that we essentially get everyone that kind of has that overview there, and then we can just see how to do something together.
Exactly. And that's a lot of the emergent pieces that we're trying to work towards, right? And then having some containers and spaces for us to do work for, okay, these 2 months, we're actually doing this project and we're building out this thing. And then we're going to move into this and we're going to figure out a better idea of what the ecosystem looks like. And so maybe we collaborate on the collaborative technology space as well. And we involve ourselves in organizing for that space, right?
Do you have one for more on the legal side and the kind of structural side, legal documents, legal entity types, best practices, contacts related to that?
I guess Evolute 6 is the main partner there. But yeah.
Is the main partner there, but we need more partners in that space. But that is essentially the finance and economics circle that we're building out is in there. So if you know anybody that is, there are some partners that some loose partners or more just friends that we're going to try to invite that are more on the land-based side that have been working on the regenerative investment land trusts, the REITs in the US, and they've been building out the governance structures for how you can not own any land or bring land back into the commons again, right? And still people invest in that and get money from that. So there's some really interesting work on the land-based side. I mean, the Fair Share Commons, I think, solves a lot of that in a lot of ways. If we have the right lawyer network and ability to get things set up and organized as Fair Share, like we're going to organize as most likely, we don't know yet because we're still going through our governance structuring, and we'll make a decision once we're done with it. But it feels like we're organizing around a members association that is governed as a Fair Share Commons. And so everybody, essentially, no one's going to own the members association, but we'll have the governance structure. So anybody that's involved in it will have the right shares and those types of things, and be able to receive benefits from and govern it, be able to govern this
perfect
this organization.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the ideas are all similar, and then the implementation is different for each jurisdiction. We worked on something in the Netherlands that I had Graham check, and he thought, well, in principle, it is a Fair Share Commons, even though we built it or developed it completely separately, but it follows most of those ideas. So I really like how the Fair Share Commons is more like an idea that can exist and sometimes comes up independently rather than a specific prescribed set of bylaws. So do you know Gian Andrea from Futura?
Yeah, I've had some very small conversations with Gian Andrea. It's been hard to get a hold of him and talk with him for longer periods of time. And I know he's really busy right now. Yeah, he's very spread thin.
I spent a week at his Villa Gaia also with Alexander from GaiaNet and a bunch of others. Victor was there as well a while ago. But he had been doing these circles that are quite similar to your circles. And so
Alex or Gian Andrea? I thought it was Alex.
G. I thought G. No, I mean it was part of it's definitely part of Futura. That was doing these circles. But anyway, I'm just wondering to what extent do we need many circles all over all these communities? Can we centralize on one set of circles and just all work together in that one? Because we already have too many meetings and so on, and we need to get real outcomes, right? We need to really be serious about this now. The time for play is kind of over. And so it sounds like you're already, fairly far with these circles. I haven't gotten a recent update from G on his circles, but that's kind of, I'm always thinking about, okay, how can we unify, right? How can we prevent reinventing the wheel so much? Yeah.
I've been trying to have that conversation with both Alex and G, but it's been really hard, to be honest. They're really busy. Alex gave me a couple moments. We've had a couple conversations. I've mostly spoken with Yannick, and Yannick's like, yes, let's try to work together, but nothing materializes. So I'm having a hard time with the Gaia Villa folks. Really spending time with them. I think that's what it's going to take, is just some time to get to know each other more, and then we could really see that we could work together. But yeah, we just haven't had that time.
I think they're also understaffed. I think that they've taken on a little bit more than they can bite off, and so I think that's what's going on. That's why I'm also doubtful whether or not their circles are really operational right now. We'll see. I'll ask him. And if they're not, then they can certainly recommend the good people. I know a few people like Alistair, from Dark Matter Labs, who wanted to participate, was participating in something, but he would be a great guy to have in the circles, in this financing circle for sure, and so on. So let me just do a little bit of legwork. Talk to G to see if I can get kind of the reality check on that one, and because I like to be of service in this case to you in this effort, but really it's lifting us all up if we can find a place where we really have good work being done, with accountability, with real results for the other side. So I'll take that on. I'll also add you to the Meta Community WhatsApp group, and to the weekly meeting invite. You don't have to come always. It's up to you. You can first lurk a little bit in the WhatsApp group if you want, and then see if what comes out of that. But it's really if we do, it's even also in service of coherence, but also really okay, how can we actually start getting real things done with collective power, and that's why we're talking at that level. The last thing that I wanted to bring up is Masterminding Eden. I think that there's an opportunity for us to shape Masterminding Eden into an event where we can use for at least part of the process of incubation. And so I know we spoke about it last time, but I wanted to kind of water the seed a little bit. Like, if you think about incubation and what you want to do there, how would you want to use Masterminding Eden as an event, as a community to facilitate part of that or to accelerate that? Is there a group of people that you'd like to bring together, or is there a focus group in which you would want to maybe do the next leg of the incubation effort, or would you want to host maybe a smaller Masterminding Eden event at one of the bioregions if you already have a location, or I don't know, maybe host some of the circles there? But I want to see if we can really use this to our benefit. Certainly, 26 event is far away, but we want to do smaller events in between, possibly in July. And so kind of figuring out that, because we have a community of people that we can now just focus in on something. And so if there's things that you want to get out of that, we might be able to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I did give it some thought as well, and I'm not exactly sure what it would look like, but I think for by the time next year, because it's going to be in May next year, roughly, right? July of next year. we would probably be pretty close to at least one of the circles being my hope is to be getting towards like organizing and be self-governing, right? And out kind of almost close to the incubation process. So I was thinking maybe we'd bring them together in physical location if they're not already close. If it's not a bioregion, probably wouldn't bring a bioregion in, or we would bring in the where we would bring in the actual group of ecosystem propagators as a whole, and just have a meeting of people gathering there, and then maybe a showcase of the work that's been done through the process of like how people are collaborating, and what's been created from that. So event-wise, we're actually trying to see if our members, because it's a members association, we have member tiers. We're trying to see if we can pool for like yearly events. A part of the membership goes to your bioregional event or our global gathering or whatever it is. And so that might be something that, maybe Eden is the partner in making that happen. But we're also talking with Gathering of Tribes, so it may be like we do like a retreat style with Eden, because that's more what it is. It's like a workshop retreat style, and then the festival style would be more like gathering. And to be honest, I prefer the retreat style. I went to the gathering. Ruben, you were at the gathering. I think you had mentioned.
I wasn't.
Or no,
I wasn't. I met Victor after. Yeah.
Okay. It was too festival for me. It was too party, and I wanted to get work done. I wanted to also have the kind of retreat-esque feeling of like, I feel refreshed after this. Not, I just partied for a few days. Now I'm tired as all junk and jet lagged as well. And so I would prefer more of like, let's get stuff done together and have like some fun things that we do together to build relationships. Especially for this group that we're building, because they are a bunch of ecosystem builders that have their own platforms or building their own platforms, and they're all about interconnecting one another. There would be a lot of work that could be done in that process.
Beautiful. I have a hard stop, but Josh, where are you based, by the way?
I'm in Bogota, Colombia.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, well, I can't wait to continue the conversation and see how these synergies unfold and align and converge. So love the work you're doing, and I just can't wait to see how we can weave and synthesize and collaborate and all those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, DJ, for introducing and getting to know you here. Looking forward to working together as well.
Awesome. Okay, talk soon. Talk later, Ruben.
Yeah. See you, DJ. So Joshua, I added you to the WhatsApp and the invite, and then you can just have a look.
Okay. Since everything's on the background for us right now, I have the list of folks that are kind of pulling into each area, and then we're going to do an invite into. It'll probably be run on Allelo, and then we're going to invite these groups to come in. Everybody's going to kind of talk to each other, but we're choosing 2 or 3 of the organizations to incubate, and then everybody's going to help in that incubation process as we kind of coordinate together. And so I'm kind of gathering everybody, and then I'm building up the moderation and everything for the Allelo system, and then hopefully in the next month or 2. I'm going to be inviting. If you want to be invited to I'm probably most likely going to invite you to the economics and financing circle. If you wanted to be invited to another circle, we can kind of place you wherever.
The technology one would be interesting. So we're incubating. The first one is the digital sovereignty technology, and then the collaboration technology will be the second. Now that we'll be incubating, and so. Seeing how we can cross-pollinate there, I think would be good. I think we also have, from the financial perspective, a lot to contribute as well. And so feel free to add me to anything that's related to those things.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I'd love to see a list of who you're putting in what circles, and then I can think about who might be also good for that, and I can introduce you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a part of our like first little initial. So we'll invite, and then we're going to see who wants to stand up and invite others into the different realms to kind of collaborate with us. Again, because it's so big, there's so many moving parts to it that I'm really trying to focus on the 3 circles that we're kind of working on right now. And then we have, so the I'll share who I have on the technology, who we're planning on inviting to the technology piece and to the economics and finance piece. And then we're working on more watershed or arena in the earth stewardship or land stewardship realm, and kind of focusing our efforts around that, which also will dictate some of the bioregional places that we start off with as well.
Okay.
So I'll give you more information here in the next few weeks as we start opening those circles up. It's probably first going to be the economics and finance circle that we're opening up, and then the technology circle.
All right. Well, I'll just follow along.
Okay, cool. All right, Ruben.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ciao.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.